Hello YouTube. So I want to present and explore the toolkit that accompanies the What's Colorism article by David Knight published in the fall 2015 issue of Teaching Tolerance. This is a colorism toolkit to help teachers teach about colorism and also to help them facilitate conversations about colorism. So as we may or may not know, skin color bias affects perceptions and interactions. And yet, how often do educators discuss this phenomenon with their students? This toolkit for What's Colorism offers suggestions on how educators can broach the topic by using a graphic essay published in the nib. So let's begin with an introduction. Skin color bias permeates our culture, and it manifests in many ways, including through media images and through the preferential treatment of people with lighter skin tones. Colorism can be most pronounced among people of color when internalized oppression undercuts solidarity. It can also be pronounced among young people whose developing self-images and attitudes about others are influenced and harmed by colorism. This toolkit presents an activity that educators can use to discuss colorism with their students. It centers around a graphic essay that looks at colorism in a comic. Note: collaboration with your creative arts colleagues is encouraged for this activity. Before we begin, here is a question for educators to have in mind. How do colorism and color privilege affect my students' perceptions of themselves and others? So having that question in mind, let's begin. Hashtag Lighten Up by Ronald Wimberly. I'm a cartoonist. Some people would say I'm black. But under this light, I'm hashtag 5C4653. Hashtag 5C4653 is a hexadecimal ID for a web color. Black, as I have used it, is an ID based on the concept of race. This one time I did a couple of pages in a Wolverine and the X-Men Jam book. It was a fun gig and it paid well. A day or so later, I got back the editor's notes and scanned them. My eye fell on something that alarmed me. So let me preface this by saying that I like this editor and that I'm not just saying that because I want to work with her again. She was great to work with, but this is an example where privilege and social literacy intersect with art. Would it be possible to make these small color tweaks? Page 15, panel 1, the girl sitting on the left. Also, could you guys lighten Melita's skin tone a bit? Thanks again, and so sorry for the last minute request. Maybe you're reading this and thinking, that doesn't seem like a big deal, but at that moment, I thought, is this racist? And I know that if I'm asking that question, the answer is probably yes. Melita Gardner is a reporter, Wolverine's ex-girlfriend. See what I did there? On Comic Vine, she's described as having a Mexican father and an African-American mother, so I figured I'd make her some kind of brown. Does how brown matter? The rest of the cast, they're blue, magenta, translucent, shark skin. For reference, here is a swatch of color I used for Melita's skin. And here is a swatch of color I was told to match. I responded to my editor with humor. I thought Melita was black and Mexican, no? Maybe she's in a different light? What if I just redrew her with a cinnamon latte in her hand and a Haruki Murakami novel under her arm? I didn't say that. Her response. And Melita's changed over the years. I've been told that she is Latina and white. So here's my problem with that. Latina refers to an ethnicity with a broad range of possible nationalities, appearances, and skin tones. Arab Mexican, Japanese Brazilian, Dominican, while white refers to, at its most innocuous, a color, and at its most sinister, a designation within a racial paradigm. I'm always sensitive about bringing up this sort of thing in work environments. The mere mention of race puts white people on edge, and that puts everybody else on edge. It's not a game of pin the tail on the races. It's simply a matter of social literacy. In this case, being aware of how race as an idea is ridiculous, but still informs how we behave. In art, this is very important. Art is where associations are made. Art is where we form the narratives of our identity. Why is it important to change the skin tone of this character a few degrees? What purpose does it serve? I wonder if a black editor would have asked me to change her skin tone. I'll keep wondering. After 12 years working in comics, I've yet to have a black editor. In the end, I didn't change the character's skin. Nobody noticed. Or maybe what didn't occur to the editorial the first time around kept them from asking a second time. I should also mention that on a previous job for Marvel, while fans noticed, editorial gave me no flack when I changed She-Hulk's hue depending on whim and light source. But then, corporations are less discriminating when it comes to the color green. Alright, so that is the comic, the graphic essay. Lighten Up is a graphic essay about race, representation, and colorism in a Marvel comic. Cartoonist Ronald Wimberly created Lighten Up for the online magazine The Nib. Share Lighten Up with your students. Use the following questions to facilitate a conversation around its portrayals and critiques of colorism. Question number 1. Which characters and skin colors / complexions are being questioned? Question number 2. How do skin colors and race affect the meaning of the stories told in the frames? Question 3. What might the race of characters in a story tell us about power and privilege, about bias and beauty? Allow the conversation to go where your students take it, but also monitor for mean language and put downs. Issues related to color privilege, bias, and beauty image are extremely personal and sensitive, especially for young people. So here next is an extension activity. In Lighten Up, Wimberly addresses colorism in the world of cartoons and comics, specifically Marvel. Have students think of other areas where there is a light skin preference and bias against darker skin. They may come up with things like movies, television, fashion, advertising, music videos, or video games. Have students collect data on the effects of colorism within a particular industry, such as those listed above, and report their findings to the class. After they've collected and shared data, have students produce a countertext to the racial hierarchy perpetuated by colorism. Encourage students to be creative with their medium, similar to how Wimberly used a comic to comment on colorism. So that's the end of the Colorism Toolkit. And I hope this is a help to educators as well as people in general. Let me know what you think in the comments section. As well, please feel free to answer the questions presented in this video in the comments section. And of course, please feel free to give your additional input on all aspects of colorism. Until the next video, adios and goodbye for now.